By the window, sitting on a wooden tripod stool, was the most gruesome memento of all, a mummy. Not the wrapped in cloth kind, but a human female body shriveled to a husk. The skin of her face was thin and leathery over her skull, and her eyes were glassy white slits as if the real eyes had been replaced by marbles. She'd been dead a long, long time. Looking at her sent chills up my back, and that was before she sat up on her stool and opened her mouth. Hello and welcome back to my channel. As you can see in the title, today I will explain the 5 prophecies in Percy Jackson and the Olympians. So there is the Lightning Thief, the Sea of Monsters, the Titan's Curse, the Battle of the Labyrinth, and the Last Olympian, which is the whole kind of overarching prophecy of the whole series. But yeah, let's just get into it. The first prophecy is the Lightning Thief. So I will read the prophecy, then go line by line explaining what every line means. So yeah. You shall go west and face the god who has turned. You shall find what was stolen and see it safely returned. You shall be betrayed by the one who calls you a friend, and you shall fail to save what matters most in the end. So the first line, you shall go west and face the god who has turned. That is how Percy Jackson, Grover Underwood, and Annabeth Chase go west to Los Angeles, who they think Hades is the god who has turned, because they go to Los Angeles to go to the underworld. But it turns out it is actually Ares who is the god who has turned, and that's who they fight, who Percy fights at the end of the book. So that's who they face. You think it's Hades, but it really isn't. So the second line, you shall find what was stolen and see it safely returned. So that is the lightning bolt that Ares gave to Percy's backpack, and Hades kind of outed him in the underworld. And another thing is Percy also gave back the Helm of Darkness, so it was kind of 2 things that were stolen. So yeah, that explains that line. The third line, you shall be betrayed by one who calls you a friend, and that is obviously Luke, it wasn't really well done that much, but Luke was acting as Percy's friend, showing him around and really being really friendly at the start, and then by the end you see Luke betrayed Percy. And the last line is, and you shall fail to save what matters most in the end, and that is also obviously Percy's mother, who he only has the 3 bubble things to go back to the surface, but it doesn't matter, because in the very, very end, Zeus or Poseidon brings back his mom. So yeah, that explains the Lightning Thief. Now let's get to the next book. The Sea of Monsters. This prophecy actually wasn't given to Percy, Annabeth, or Grover, and it was actually given to Clarice, who Percy, Annabeth, and Grover actually thought they should be along for the ride. And so yeah, this is the prophecy. You shall sail the iron ship with warriors of bone. You shall find what you seek and make it your own. But despair for your life atoned within stone, and fail without friends to fly home alone. So this is to Clarice. You have to remember that. So when it says to fly home alone, I'll explain that later. It's not actually to Percy. So, you shall sail the iron ship with warriors of bone. Clarice obviously sailed with the CSS Birmingham, with the dead warriors of, I think it was a Civil War, I'm pretty sure. And that was obviously given to her by her dad. Obviously, Ares was proud that her daughter had a quest. So Ares gave her the ship and the warriors. Second line is, you shall find what you seek and make it your own. So Clarice, Percy, Annabeth, and Tyson find the golden fleece, and they take it from Polyphemus, who is the monster in the Sea of Monsters. And Percy later gives Clarice the fleece because it is officially her quest. So Percy is a nice guy and gives her the fleece. So yeah, that explains the second line. You shall find what you seek and make it your own. So actually, Percy had the fleece, and Clarice found the fleece, but Percy gave it, so it made Clarice her own. It made it her own. And the third line, but despair for your life, atoned within stone. This line explains near the end where she's trapped in Polyphemus's cavern or cave or whatever, and she's really like not depressed, but she's really scared for her life. That explains when she despairs, when she's scared for her life, when she's in the cavern, when she's entombed within stone. So the last line of the Sea of Monsters prophecy is, and fail without friends to fly home alone. So the prophecy says that she's prophesied to fail without friends. That doesn't mean that she doesn't fail. It just means that to succeed, she has to fly home using a plane to Camp Half-Blood, because they wouldn't be able to go fast enough with just walking. And obviously Percy can't take a plane because it's kind of dangerous, because Zeus, and he's not really meant to be born, I guess you could say. So yeah, so Clarice takes a plane and she flies home alone, and she's not going with her friends, so she kind of fails without friends. So yeah, that explains the Sea of Monsters prophecy. Let's get to the next one. So the first line is explained like this. So the first line is, 5 shall go west to the goddess in chains. Sorry, I keep saying that. The 5 that go west is Zoe, Talia, Grover, Bianca, and Percy. The goddess that is in chains that they have to save is Artemis, obviously, and she is at Mount Otharies. I never knew how to pronounce that, and she's holding up the world, I think. So yeah, the second line is, one shall be lost in the land without rain. This is kind of sad, but Bianca has to sacrifice herself in the desert, so that explains the no rain. And she does it to save the group, but it was kind of a selfish thing. And so yeah, she saves herself against a robot, or Hephaestus' robot, I think. I forget the name, but that explains how one shall be lost in the land without rain. Bianca dies, and in the desert with no rain. So the third line is, the Bane of Olympus shows the trail. They followed Ophiuchus, which was called the Bane of Olympus, because he was sacrificed in flames. The person that sacrificed it would have the power to destroy Olympus. During the quest, it keeps appearing in various bodies of water. The fourth line is, campers and hunters combined prevail. The only way the quest would be successful was if the campers and hunters worked together. The quest consisted of 3 campers, Percy, Grover, and Talia, and 2 hunters, Bianca and Zoe, who Bianca eventually dies. So yeah, the fourth line essentially means campers and hunters combined prevail. It's not really hard to understand. Campers and hunters, Camp Half-Blood, they have to work together, which they're not known to. The fifth line is, the Titan's curse must one withstand. So yeah, also, to win the battle at Mount Otharies, someone has to lift up the sky, take the Titan's curse, to free Artemis, who was lifting the sky, so she can fight, because she's a goddess. She's the strongest of the group. So Percy, I keep saying obviously, Percy takes up the Titan's curse, and he thinks, or he thought, that he has no chance against Atlas, because Atlas is a Titan and Percy is a camper who's 13 in this book. So Percy takes up the sky as Artemis, who's stronger, fights Atlas. And the last line is, and one shall perish by a parent's hand. Again, this was probably a very deathful book. Zoe, another hunter, dies, was killed by the poison of the dragon laden cause of her Titan father Atlas. I'll say that again. The Titan father of Zoe, Atlas, had a dragon who poisoned Zoe, and Zoe died from the poison. So she died from her father. And that explains, one shall perish by a parent's hand. Zoe's killed by Atlas, her father. let's go to the next book. The fourth book in the series, The Battle of the Labyrinth. I would say this is probably my favorite. Maybe not. I think Titan's Curse is my favorite. Second favorite maybe. In the series, the prophecy goes like this. Another 6-liner. You shall delve in the darkness of the endless maze, the dead, the traitor, and the lost one raise. You shall rise or fall by the Ghost King's hand, the child of Athena's final stand. Destroy with a hero's final breath, lose a love to worse than death. So the first line of this prophecy is explained like this. You shall delve in the darkness of the endless maze. So Percy, Grover, Annabeth, and Tyson, the whole plot of the story is how they have to go into the labyrinth and save Daedalus. Yeah, so they have to delve in the darkness of the endless maze, and Labyrinth is dark, and they have to delve into the darkness. That's kind of that's a simple one. The second line is the dead, the traitor, and the lost one raise. So we'll take it. There's 3 different words here: the dead, traitor, and the lost one raise. So the dead is Nico, who raises the dead, who is the son of Hades, and he can raise the dead. The traitor is Ethan Nakamura, who was a traitor from Camp Half-Blood, and he was spared. And the lost one raise is Pan's spirit. He was the lost one, and his spirit raised, and the message of him dying went around the world. The third line is you shall rise or fall by the Ghost King's hand. The Ghost King is Nico, and if he decided not to help Annabeth go through the maze, and if he hadn't raised the dead and helped the campers, then everyone at camp would have been dead. So he decided if he was going to rise or fall everyone. The fourth line is the child of Athena's final stand. The child of Athena is not Annabeth. Many people think it is Annabeth. It refers to Daedalus, who is one of Athena's children. Pretty obvious because he is an architect. He is an inventor. And it says his final stand because he dies during the Battle of the Labyrinth, the name of the book. The fifth line is destroy with a hero's final breath. The labyrinth was destroyed by Daedalus' last breath. Daedalus asked Nico to free his soul in order to destroy his creation. So Nico lifted his soul from the labyrinth because Daedalus and the labyrinth were connected, and now Daedalus is freed from the labyrinth, and the labyrinth is now destroyed after he does that. So he destroys his own creation, and that explains destroy with a hero's final breath. The sixth line is and lose a love to worse than death. Annabeth, the lose to love is Annabeth loves Luke obviously as a friend, and she loses him to Kronos. Kronos takes over Luke's body, and Luke is not the villain, it's Kronos in this story, and I think Luke is one of the best characters in this story, just my opinion. That's not the point of this video though. And lose a love to worse than death, and it's worse than death because Kronos takes over Luke, takes over Annabeth's best friend. Luke saved Annabeth. It's worse than death, obviously. So yeah, that was the fourth one. Now let's get to the last one, which is the overall prophecy of the whole entire book. The whole entire series. It's the one that Percy is not told until I think the third or fourth book, and it's mainly explaining the fifth book, but it does explain the whole series. So it goes like this: a half-blood of the eldest gods shall reach 16 against all odds, and see the world in endless sleep. The hero's soul cursed blade shall reap. A single choice shall end his days, Olympus to preserve or raise. So line by line. For number 9-1 is a half-blood of the eldest gods. This one's kind of self-explanatory. Percy is the half-blood, and the eldest gods is Zeus, Hades, and Poseidon, which, I mean, they're called the big three, but they weren't. They're the last born, I think. They're the last born of all the gods, because Zeus came out last, so he's actually the youngest. Anyway, the eldest gods referred to in Greek mythology is Zeus, Hades, and Poseidon, and Half-Blood Percy is a son of one of the eldest gods. The second line is shall reach 16 against all odds. Against all odds is just explaining how all the adventures and how all the dangers Percy has gone through. Against all odds, because he's fought so many things. It's numerous how many dangers he's been into in the last 4 books. The third line is, and see the world in endless sleep. This explains how just Olympus itself kind of put everyone in sleep, non-demigods and non-gods, put them to sleep so that they can't interfere, they can't die, they can't, I guess many people did die because it was very dangerous, but many, that you couldn't stop or you couldn't do anything to fight the god, to fight demigods, to fight the monsters. So yeah, Olympus just put Manhattan to sleep. The fourth line is the hero's soul cursed blade shall reap. This explains how when Luke and Annabeth first met, Luke gave Annabeth a knife, explaining that they have to keep the promise that they would be a family forever. But when Luke betrayed the camp, that promise was broken, and then the curse was on the knife that Annabeth had. There's a curse put on the knife. So when Luke used the knife to kill himself to save everyone, the hero's soul cursed blade shall reap. So the blade is Annabeth's knife, and the hero's soul was killed or was stabbed by the cursed blade, if that explains it. The fifth line, a single choice shall end his days. Percy had to choose between giving Annabeth's knife to Luke and allow him to destroy himself, or kill himself, in trying to destroy Luke himself and failing. So a single choice that shall end his days is ending Luke's days or everyone else's. If Percy didn't give that knife to Luke to kill himself, and Percy tried to fight Luke, one more second, and Cronus would have taken over, and Cronus would have killed Percy. That would end Percy's days and everyone else, because Cronus would be too powerful. Luke had an inkling of himself inside Cronus, left and killed himself without a second to spare. And the sixth line is Olympus to preserve or raise. This single choice of him giving Luke the knife or trying to kill Luke himself would either raise or preserve Olympus. Like it says, Olympus to preserve or raise. It would destroy Olympus, or it would make Olympus back like it was normally, like a powerful entity, I guess. So that explains all 5 prophecies in Percy Jackson and the Olympian series. I might do Heroes of Olympus, I might do Trials of Apollo, I might do Magnus Chase, or I might do what's it called, the Kane Chronicles. Just let me know if you like this. And that was a lot of explaining, a lot of prophecies. But I really enjoyed it. Tell me if you enjoyed it in the comments, and thanks for listening, and see you next time.